So welcome everyone to First Wednesdays, not with Gretchen Heido this week, but it's going to be with Marissa Fernandez. She's going to be sharing her top 10 lenses that she uncovered around themes of money, selling, self-worth, and creativity, and so much more. So with that, I will let her dig right into it. Marissa?
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. And thank you everyone for coming, even though our leader, our coach, Gretchen, isn't here this week. Hopefully we can have some fun and I'll take something away. Like Christy said, my name is Marissa. I am a founder, executive coach, and consultant to ambitious and collaborative leaders and teams. And I'm also Gretchen's client and her mentee. I've been working with her since April of 2021, which is when I launched my coaching practice full time. And just like you all, I'm a member of her coaches community, Coaching for Coaches. And by way of short background, when I was younger, I was a straight A student and I set my goals on getting a good GPA and getting into an Ivy League school. And I did that. And then I started my marketing career when I was 22. And I thought to myself, here we go. CMO or bust. I'm going to the top of the ladder, similarly wired. And I never really questioned that decision. I never really had a deeper why or sense of purpose tied to my career. It was more just like what I thought I should do. And so off I went. And all that being said, I really enjoyed my career, though it was a grind at times. I started out in CPG marketing. I spent the second half of my career in sports marketing until I finally, I made it, so to speak. I got to the top of that corporate ladder and got a chief marketing officer job. And what do you know? I did not like the view from up there. It was not a good fit. It was not a good cultural fit. There were some things that I was really good at, and there were some things that I really was not good at. And I was sacrificing literally my physical and mental health to try to work my way through what was like jamming a puzzle piece into a puzzle that didn't fit. And in March of 2020, my role was eliminated. And so I felt lost. I learned that my whole identity had really been wrapped up in who I was as a corporate employee. And I felt scared. Here we are entering this global pandemic. I needed to support myself. What was I going to do? But also I felt relieved. It was like this one shining light of good emotion amidst a bunch of bad emotion. And luckily I decided to listen to it, notice it. And it kind of led me on this journey of self-discovery to find out what I'm passionate about, what I want to spend my professional effort and energy doing, and what my true gifts are. And that's how I found coaching. Now, the shortest story from there is that I hired Gretchen with a goal of hitting 6 figures in the first year. I did it in less than that and have grown a thriving practice since. And when I look back at what really happened and what allowed the growth, not just to my bank account, though there was growth to my bank account, but to my confidence and to my trust in my own intuition, to my vulnerability, to my relationships, really to every area of my life, was that I noticed how my own thoughts and belief patterns, or for purposes of this session, I'll call the lenses at which I was viewing things, had really been holding me back. And by being able to remove them and change them, I was able to transform my business and my life. And there are some people on this call who've seen me through that journey and can attest to a lot of the changes that I have made and have demonstrated. But what I hope that you're all going to be able to get from today is to, at the very least, simply notice more your inner dialogue and how that's creating a frame, a lens, a tinted glass that you're seeing a certain situation, and for you to just evaluate and try what might things look like if you're able to shift that tint to something else, to remove it, to shape it, or to evolve it. Because it is my belief now, having done all these shifts, that it's our lenses that can either propel us forward towards our desired outcomes or inadvertently prevent us from getting there, or at least prevent us from getting there with the speed and ease that might be possible. How does that sound? Does anyone have any questions so far? Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. And welcome to those of you who joined during my little preamble. I'm Marissa, and it's so great to see you and to meet you. So before I share some of my lenses and how I changed them, we're going to do an exercise. And I'll also say I am trying to keep my eye on the chat, but if you have a question, you can just pop off mute. The group is small enough that you can just ask. Sorry to be off camera, no problem, Marcia. Okay, here's the exercise that I want everyone to do. I want you to think of an area of your life or your business that is going great. Okay, you're super satisfied with the results that you are achieving in this particular area of your business or your life. So it could be a relationship, a friendship, maybe it's like your health, your fitness, a particular client is thriving, maybe it's your enrollment, whatever it is. So take a second, write it down, area of your life or area of your business that's going great. Okay, does everyone have one? Okay. Now for that area, I want you to consider these prompts and just jot down the first things that come to mind. And I put them in the chat so you have them. What are your thoughts or beliefs about that particular area of your life? If I were to put a microphone up to your head and hear that inner dialogue when somebody brings up, hey, how are you feeling about your marriage? If that's what area is going well, what is the inner dialogue that plays? What would we hear? What do you believe to be true about why this area is going well? What reasons do you have for yourself as to why this is going well? And then lastly, what unwritten rules or habits or behaviors do you feel like contribute to you creating these results that you're happy with? And maybe you have an answer for 1 or 2 and not 3. That's okay. This doesn't need to be perfect. Just to get your wheels turning, to start excavating, to start unearthing your beliefs, your lenses. And for those of you that are watching the recording, you can hit pause, take as much time as you need to do this. Okay. I encourage you to take as much time as you need on this exercise. For now, I'd love for one of you to share. Who's willing to share with the group an area of their life that's working well and some of those beliefs that they have supporting it? Who's feeling brave? Jen, and what a good student raising your hand. You can just come off mute, but I do appreciate the good behavior. Gold star.
Absolutely. Thank you. I need a gold star today. Thank you. All
You're
right. So the area that is going well for me right now is my romantic relationship. And I chose this both because it feels like it's in a really strong place and because it's an area I've been challenged with in the past. The beliefs around it is I've done the work and I'm in a strong place. So I don't love this saying, but it came to me around practice makes perfect. And the unwritten rules, or I'm sorry, unwritten things that contribute to it, open communication, confidence, vulnerability, and emotional exposure. And this is really important to me, fun and play. So enjoying the moments, enjoying every aspect of it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
You can see how, imagine a set of beliefs like what Jen shared, and think about how this can apply to any area of your life. You can remove, like she said, it's about a romantic relationship, but imagine if you have an area of your life and your beliefs are, I've done the work. Practice makes perfect. This is something that I enjoy. This can be reapplied to any area of life. You can see how when you're having those thoughts, wow, what an energetic boost you have. what type of actions do those thoughts really empower you to have? And therefore, the results are the ones that you're desiring. Thank you so much. Does one more person want to share an area of life that's going well and some of their thoughts? Carrie W.
So don't pass out, but I picked client creation as what's going well for me right now. And let me just tell you guys that 18 months ago, that would have been at the bottom of my list. So the thoughts and beliefs and what do I believe is true about this area are kind of the same. So I'm actually really good at client creation. I am kick-ass at chemistry calls. The game that I have created for myself, the client creation game, works. All I have to do is play it. And what shifted for me is it's not about getting clients, it's about serving people in those chemistry calls. And sometimes serving them best isn't becoming their coach. And that's okay. My job is just to find people who I think are special and make sure that I share with them that they are special. That's my whole job in the process. If they become clients afterwards, wonderful, but that's not the point of it necessarily.
I love that. Congratulations on the shift. And thank you for sharing kind of the evolution, not just where you are now. Really, really powerful. And for those of you that don't know Carrie Williams, let me introduce you to her, a fabulous coach who's been at this for a while and is an expert at what she does. And she's created these powerful thoughts, beliefs, this lens that she now views client creation that allows her to really thrive. And again, imagine how some of these might apply either to your business or to areas of life where you don't feel as good. Having the thought, I'm really good at this. The game works. All I have to do is play. It's all about service. Or maybe for you, you say it's all about fill in the blank something else. So you had a belief that it used to be something that I hate. Now you're just going to choose it to make it about something else that you're good at, or that inspires you, or that gets you going. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, we're going to do this exercise one more time. This one's going to feel a little more vulnerable because maybe some of you see this coming. Now I want you to go ahead and think about an area in your life that's not going so well. An area where you're not getting the results that you want. Maybe things are pretty rough, or maybe they're just mediocre and you know that there's excellent out there. You know that there's something beyond. Could be in your business, could be in your life. Okay, think about that area of your life. We all have them. No one is immune. And then you're going to address the same or similar prompts, right? What are the thoughts or beliefs that you have in that area? If we can all sneak into your inner dialogue and hear what you were saying to yourself, about the circumstance, what would it be? What do you believe to be true about why this area of your life isn't going well or as well as it could? And I want you to be really honest with yourself, even if nobody sees it but you, to answer what excuses do you have for yourself that you really believe right now? What excuses do you have? And what unwritten rules or habits are contributing to these results that you're not happy with? Thank you all for taking some time to do this. I'm going to share a personal one of my own to open up the gates for vulnerability. If I'm going to ask for it, I have to give it, in my opinion. I recently uncovered a pretty challenging set of lenses around my own love life and search for partnership. So I'm 38 years old. I'm a single person. I would like to be happily partnered, and I'm not, and I haven't been in quite a while. And I had a lot of complaints about it. I had a lot of reasons why. there's no good men out there. Dating apps are crap. They're a necessary evil. I'm seeing some smiles in the crowd. So maybe some of you have experienced this or know people who have. I'm busy with work. I don't need a man. I'm independent. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of joy in my life. I had all kinds of distractions. But the truth of the matter was, I was avoiding it entirely. I wasn't putting in the time. I wasn't putting in the effort because I had all of these negative thoughts and excuses. The lens that I was looking at my love life was a dark gray cloud. And it was preventing me from really getting out there and seeking what I want. So I'm back out there. I have put myself out there in fairly bold ways recently, still looking for love, but have so much more positive energy and real optimism towards what's going to happen. But I had to really look in the mirror and see, wow, all of these filters that I was putting on it were not just me factually reporting on my love life, but really it was preventing me from wholeheartedly going after the results that I wanted. So does anyone want to share an area where the results are not quite what they want?
Sure, I'll jump in.
Thank you, Ted.
In enrollment conversations into coaching.
Yeah. And what were some of your reflections when you noted the prompts, either your thoughts or beliefs, excuses, unwritten rules?
Yeah, so I think not necessarily conscious, but very much I don't want to seem like I'm selling you. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Yeah, that it's a very two-way conversation that we're having, and but it's somehow not appearing to be pushy. And the habits and the rules, I think I of course failed. I know, hey, let's have a catch-up call, and it's a connection call, but it's not an intention call, if you will. And I think my excuses are they're not responding, they're not ready. They're just not up for that conversation, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's mostly not wanting to be assertive and, inject my agenda.
Yeah, I get that. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing. And a show of hands, how many people wish that their enrollment or sales was better than it is? Even if you feel like yours are good, if you feel like there's room for improvement. Okay, great. So Ted, you're not alone. And I appreciate you being the first to open the tube of toothpaste, if you will. Yeah, relatable, Sophie said in the chat. Thank you. And when you have a lens, you shared a few things. One that stuck with me around this like assertiveness or pushiness. If you have this subconscious feeling that selling coaching is pushy, and being assertive or being a leader in those enrollment conversations might be off-putting. If that's the lens, you can imagine the emotional state that you go in is a little bit probably on your heels, right? Probably insecure, maybe, or less secure than you would otherwise be. And then that drives you to take certain actions. It's actually contributing to the results instead of propelling you. So when you think about this idea, and perhaps Carrie's example is a helpful foil, Ted, is there a reframe that you think you can try on for size? Think about like putting a new lens on your camera. You're just going to try it. That could help shift you from this energy of sales is pushy, sales is going to be off-putting, so I better make it super. This is a friendly catch-up two-way street here. What do you want to shift it to?
So this only hit me a couple of days ago, and I haven't yet applied it, but it is basically, it's sort of the product of the product being coaching, but the product of the product is, of course, the output, the impact they are making. So I'm interested in what impact people want to make in the world. And so to be curious about that, because I want to make my impact with my own projects, and I want to help others do that with theirs. And so I can authentically have that conversation about what pisses them off, excuse my French, that they would like to see changed, or what inspires them. And that's a powerful conversation just to have. And, sometimes you get engagement, sometimes you don't, but that I can authentically stand for and be for, and then
Yeah.
back into a coaching conversation when there's traction.
Yeah, I love that. And I can even feel the energy, like you're talking about it a little faster and with higher energy, like you're operating on a different wavelength when you're going in with the mindset of, I'm going to connect with this person's passion and purpose and help them make the impact that they want to make in the world. If it's something that I care about too, like, whoa, imagine how much more conviction and confidence you can show up in those enrollment conversations. So I can't wait to hear how trying that lens on for size feels.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I had a similar one, which was, I'm good at the coaching part, but not at the selling part. So let's just get the selling part over with, because I'm going to be good once they're over the line. Has anyone had a similar thought, like confidence in the coaching, but the selling, no, thank you. Yeah. And I read The Prosperous Coach and I was like, I get it's not supposed to be this way, but I'm still feeling this way. And it wasn't until the shift for me that was helpful was selling is just coaching to somebody that's not yet my client. So all I'm doing is coaching. Sometimes it's for people who are my clients. Sometimes it's people who are not yet my clients. That's what really let me settle in. It turned up my security and down my insecurity. And I closed a lot more. I still got told no a bunch, but I closed a lot more and didn't fear the sale anymore. So take what Carrie said, take what Ted said, take what I said. For those of you that raised your hand that didn't yet share, can any of those three or a version of those work as a shift for you to evolve your lens on client enrollment? Does anyone want to share what they're taking so far?
I'll share. So Marissa, that last comment around selling is just coaching to people that are not my clients yet. That resonates with me. I have noticed that I have really enjoyed and been good at sales in the past when I was a part of an organization because it felt safer. And now that I'm outside of an organization on my own, it feels so much more vulnerable and just I'm bumping up against it. But when I think about it in those terms around I'm coaching people and they're just not my clients, that makes it feel safer and softer.
I'm so glad. Sherry, hi, good to see you again. I saw you came off mute. What did you want to share?
I liked, I think what Carrie said about, the game is like really fun. It brings like client creation fun, but I also liked how she said, finding special people. I mean, and just, I think that that's probably why we all coach is the connection that we have with people. And instead of looking at them in a way of like, I want to get this client. And that's sometimes how I've been. And I've let that go. It's like, no, it's not about getting a client. It really is about how can I serve them? So appreciate what Carrie said.
Awesome. Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Carrie. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to share a couple of more of my shifts. I think some will relate to some of you, but let me pause here and see what questions y'all are having about this. Okay. The powerful thing that I hope you're realizing, and you can share this with clients too, is that intuitively we might think that, well, I'm having these thoughts because the results are what they are. And then my thoughts are kind of reporting on the results that my marriage is good or my client enrollment is not so good. But in actuality, it's the opposite. So it's our thoughts, our beliefs, and our lenses that fuel our action, and then our actions create our results. And so intervening up at this thought level is really key. You can do this with yourself and you can do it with your clients. So here are some of my shifts. One was that leaving corporate to become a coach means I'll make less money, but I'll be really fulfilled, so it'll be worth it. Does anyone relate to this idea of coming from a lucrative job into coaching and feeling like, okay, my money is going to go like this, and now I need to figure out how to deal with that? Is that what people, yeah, I'm okay. A lot of hand raises, a lot of head nods. Yeah, so I thought that was a reality. And I actually talked to a lot of coaches who validated that for me. So I was like, okay, fact. This is a fact. Let's, put it in the encyclopedia and this is a fact. But guess what? It's not. And I realized that for me, this was sneaky because it was actually a belief that was very useful for me when I first started. It turned down the fear of just getting started because it was a belief that was, I'm going to make less money, but I'm going to be fulfilled, so it's going to be okay. And that was enough of a belief to get me going. But once I got going, I noticed that that belief, if you really dissect it, and some of you have it or a version of it, so look at it in the mirror and look at it as I did, it was putting a ceiling inadvertently. It was like an upper limit that I just had because I'd sort of said, well, coaching is going to be less, but more fulfilling. And in noticing this belief, I was able to see this really comes from a place of lack and scarcity. And in continuing to think and believe this thought, I'm creating it. I'm creating those results where I'm fulfilled and making less. And so with the help of Gretchen and weeks and months of coaching on money mindset and on growing the business, so this wasn't a flip of a switch, I was able to find and embrace a new belief. And my belief now is that coaching will allow me to build a business on my own terms, create even more wealth with a fraction of the stress and hours and twice the fulfillment as my corporate job ever did. And I'm not going to do that in 10 years. I'm going to do it in less than 3. And I really believe that to be true. And it fuels me. And when I read that powerful thought, I'm like, yes, I'm in action. I can be bold. I can have fun. And I'm making it happen. And had I not shifted the belief, I would play smaller. I would pitch smaller. I wouldn't raise my hand for things. Like, you see how it can manifest in very real opportunities, not just I believe it and then it's true. There's that middle step of what actions are you willing to take or what actions are you avoiding by virtue of holding on to one thought or another. What are you hearing in that? I'm seeing some head nods.
What's coming up for me is that these lenses, these gray, you call them gray lenses, I think they're gray for you. Those are the lenses that encourage us to play safe and small. And to really create the businesses that we want to build, we can't play safe and small. And so it's really the lenses that encourage us to play big, to play bold, and to play brave. They're going to get us where we want to get to.
Well said. Phil, I see your wheels turning there. Anything you want to share? No pressure, if not.
I think Ted wanted to go and then I'll go after him.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I
You
was
guys are
having,
so orderly.
I don't like silence. That's why I'm an effective enrollment. I heard a wonderful quote the other day that a goal is a place to come from, not a place to get to. And if I hear how you share that, which I really appreciate, it's sort of like really getting, like, in 3 years, this is what it's going to be, and working from the future backward for that to happen, what needs to happen versus coming from the present forward. And so
Yeah.
thank you for the great reminder.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing that thought, that quote. I think it's Rich Litvin, or at least he repeats it a lot if it's not his own. Phil, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm a couple of comments. One, I would say that, for me, it's sort of the scenario of the bouncer, the person guarding the door is actually me. I'm sort of getting in my own way. So like when it comes to client creation, when it comes to creating a coaching business and a practice and getting paid what I want, I realize that the only person in the way is me. And so I just remind myself, really all I have to do is sort of get that part of me, that whatever it is that's blocking the door, that wants me to stay safe, that, is afraid to put myself out, whatever all those thoughts and beliefs that go along with it. I just have to remember that I just need to move that person out of the way. And if I get out of that way, then I can be present with the person and I can really listen. And then that's where the magic happens. And so it's kind of funny, because I understand that part of me is there to play it safe and to protect me, but it's not really getting me where I want to go. You know, and I think in one of our conversations, you know, like I was asking a new client, I was making a new proposal with a dollar amount I've never asked for, and you know, the motto was push the button, just hit send. The email was all done, and as far as I know, I don't have a check yet, but as far as I know, you know, it's a yes, it's a green light. And I was like, how long have I been standing in my own way? Like crazy. And so I do think, you know, every opportunity you have to get in that situation, and again, stepping back and being aware of what's going on and getting out of your own way. And so I have been rereading what I think is probably one of the best books ever, which is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The very beginning of the book, they have an unabridged version. And if I go too long here, Marissa, please you know, hit the timeout button.
You'll hear the exit music in a minute or two.
but it kind of goes into this, and it's the idea of, and he talks a lot about this in the very beginning, is that you have to change the way you see the situation. You have to have a paradigm shift. And I realize that that's what I do as a coach. Our job most of the time as a coach is to help people see a situation from a different angle, a different light, a different way. And I realize, like, if I'm not living the way I want to live, why am I not living? How am I looking at it? Even in the job I'm at right now, that I tried to come up with all these reasons on why I was staying in that job. And then I remember my job is to serve people. That's really one of my values. I want to serve people, make their life better. You know what? I'm doing it in that job, and I'm going to do it in coaching. I would rather do it in coaching than this job. But I think that, you know, that really helped me. So when you talk about beliefs and thoughts, I think it's really good of like asking yourself, how am I looking at the situation? What is my paradigm? And can I shift that? Because when you shift that, all the behaviors shift with it. Your feelings shift, your actions shift. And that's where I think the paradigm of who's in the way, it's not the client, it's me that's in the way. So,
Totally.
okay.
Yeah.
I've talked for too long.
You're all good. Thank you so much. And yeah, guys, a lot of this, in my opinion, is kind of semantics. You can call it paradigm, you can call it a lens, you can call it a filter, you can call it a rule. It's all just your thoughts, your beliefs, the system that you've created. And you're right. You're completely right, Phil. It impacts how you feel, it impacts what you do, and that's what's going to create the result. So thank you for sharing. I love the bouncer metaphor. You're keeping yourself out of your own VIP club. You got to let yourself in. You're on the list.
And he's not that tough of a bouncer.
Okay. I'm going to share a couple more that I think might be relevant, hopefully, to some of you. One is that I had a lens or filter that was logic wins the day. So when faced with a problem or decision, my previous operating decision was to go straight to my head. What does the data tell me? Let me get all the facts. Let me do the math. Let me do a pros and cons analysis. Give me the intel. What do my mentors have to say? Let me weigh all that out. What do I think? What do they think? There was a lot of thinking and overthinking. And what I've learned through the art of coaching and getting coached and enrolling and growing the business is that my brain is one powerful tool that I have, but it's not the only one. And oftentimes it's not even the best one. And I have to say that for years, I did not even consider that there was another road here. So this was pretty radical for me to now embrace this idea that intuitive hits and my gut instinct and my creativity are all extremely powerful tools that help me. And so I've evolved my belief, not to say logic out the window, of course, but it's this idea that my logical brain plus my intuitive wisdom are a potent combination that together can power me through any situation. And it was really hard to notice that I had spent decades silencing my intuition and believing that I was not a creative person because I'm not a good artist. Literally, I can't draw a good picture. I was kind of like, well, I guess that means I'm not creative. And now I've recently cultivated the presence of my own intuition and creativity and built up my own trust to know When should I lean on my logic? And there are times where that makes sense. But when should I go with my gut? When should I go with a blend? When should I go with my heart? So that was an important shift that I've made for myself that have helped contributed to growth in my business and my life. Do any of you feel like maybe in hearing that you have a lens or tendency where you overplay logic or you overplay gut and intuition? Now we're all, okay, you guys all have that shift done. Let me address Judy's question in the chat, the flow of our thoughts controlling our actions. So our thoughts are what create our emotional state. So we think thoughts, and that's what contributes to how we feel. How we feel drives or prohibits our actions. So if we're feeling energized, we're probably going to be bold and do more things or reach out to people. If we're feeling the emotion of insecure, we'll probably be timid, take fewer actions. And then our actions create our results. So the part of that loop that's really obvious to most people is that actions create results. That's like, okay, yeah, duh. But what we don't often see is that, well, let's take that a step further. Where are our actions coming from? Our actions are coming from the thoughts that we have, the paradigms, the beliefs, the lenses, and the emotional state that those thoughts and beliefs create. Does that answer your question, Judy? Does anyone want to share their reflections on head versus heart?
Yeah, and I think for Marissa, there's a really great book that is actually has a workbook and could be a great tool for coaching, and it's called Mind Over Mood, and you can get it on Amazon. But it talks about just exactly that our thoughts create the emotion that drives the behavior, and if you can change your thought pattern, you can change the way you feel, which will then create the behavior you want. So Mind Over Mood, it's a really great book.
Thank you. And look at Christy. She's like, what a gift. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Christy.
So Marissa, I'm super head over heart, or was. I'm getting better, but I'm also goal over journey. And so if I set a goal, I will hit that goal come hell or high water, whether I'm enjoying it or not. And I will sacrifice fulfillment and happiness and balance to achieve. And I think that that's just as dangerous as relying on your head too much.
Yeah, I can see those being really similar. Thank you for sharing. And really good to notice, like it's a tendency, but just noticing will help you not fall into that tendency as frequently. I love that.
Well, I'll add 2 cents, Marissa, which is that I err too much on being respectful, which is never a bad thing, but it doesn't make an impact in someone. And so heart overhead is having those conversations that are actually more meaningful to people than all the transactional stuff. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. We know that time has 2 different kinds. There's linear time, and then there's the experiential time. And to create that heartfelt conversation is worth way more than the 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 1 hour than every other, useless conversation. So depth versus breadth, I guess. But heart over head, I like it.
Marissa, when you were in marketing, did you ever study the theory that people buy with emotion? Like it's when you tap into the emotion, that's why people buy. And so it's tugging the heartstring first. And then what happens is if you can tap into the emotion, they will justify with their brain. They're going to justify whatever they want to be the truth. It's like confirmation bias in sales.
Yes, totally.
So I find it interesting because so many of us try and go logical, like let's be logical about this purchase when we approach it the wrong way. Let's go to the heart of this purchase.
Yeah, much more like love than the decision to like, which of these 2 pretty comparable things should I buy in the grocery store, which would probably be more head oriented, right? Okay. Does anyone in this group describe themselves as risk averse? Anyone? I'm getting some like maybes. Donna's smiling. I don't know if that means yes or hell no. Yeah, okay. I have been risk averse, and I thought that was like a trait. I was like, I've got brown hair and brown eyes, and I'm risk averse, and I'm 5'9". Like that was like my back of my basketball trading card. It was part of my identity. And I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was a great thing. I was like, it's positive. I'm responsible. I'm deliberate. I'm calculated. I don't fail often. I don't fail ever. Hint, hint, because I'm never taking any type of risk that would even make failure an option. I would only set goals that I was certain that I could reach. And as a smart and pretty ambitious person, they were like pretty good goals. I wasn't, twiddling my thumbs. And on its face, this isn't a terrible filter, right? Like it's pretty good. I'm safe. I'm comfortable. I'm fine with this filter. But what I uncovered was it similar to that money belief that I shared first. It was limiting my potential. Once this was illuminated to me through getting coached, this would not have come to me organically. It was like I learned I had been spending my entire life in cruise control at like a pretty good speed, but I never stretched myself into fifth gear ever. I was just letting the fear of possible failure prevent me from even trying to take a really big swing. And so I authored a new lens that for a while I was actually reading it to myself daily to really help to ingrain, to like shake this very long held belief that was passed down from my parents as like ancestors of risk averse people. And here's my new belief in this area. I dream big, and the sport of swinging for the fences is thrilling, transforming, and fun. So listen carefully that this new belief isn't about the outcome. It isn't about, and now I'm succeeding at this higher level. It's just about the act itself. And I love the metaphor of swinging for the fences because it makes it a game. It's like Carrie's client creation game. It's like fun is infused in there. And the fun is not tied to whatever happens. So, Phil's example of saying a number bigger than what he's ever said, it's like, that's the fun part. If they say yes, great, and that's gravy, but you get to celebrate just freaking being big and bold and saying a big number, the biggest number that you've ever said. And the next time you get to celebrate saying the biggest number you've ever said, because that's going to happen soon, right? So it's allowed me to put myself out there to try new things, not just in my business, but in my personal life that I would have never considered had I not addressed this, what I thought was a truth about myself being risk averse, and realized it was just a lens. It was just a cloudy filter that I could remove. What are people hearing in this for themselves?
Since I smiled earlier, you've weaved a couple of the lenses together, bringing up quite a few. I've made notes already tonight. And the biggest one was take the chance. Stop believing the limitations, believe the opportunity. Why is it easier to believe you can't do something versus you can? So the risk adverse, the limitations. So I wrote down and circled on my paper, take the chance, make your reality, go for it. Thank you.
My pleasure. You got this. I'm cheering for you. I love that. Who else wants to share?
Don't give me a pregnant pause. I will step in.
Head, it's allowed to be quiet. We need to investigate the meaning that you have around silence. It's not a good thing.
The floor. I love the expression that you sort of shared it, what you do anywhere is what you do everywhere. And so while you were talking about playing big, I was like, oh yeah, swinging the big bat, but where don't I do that in my life in all kinds of places? Oh, so I can practice what I do with clients everywhere. I asked a girl out to date for coffee. I would never do that at the gym, but that was swinging big for me. So
congrats. Yeah.
Everywhere.
I love that. And everyone, you took those two notes at the beginning of like, what's going well and what are the thoughts and what's not. Take a look at those thoughts that are fueling what's going well. Can those apply to any other area of your life, especially the ones that are not going well? What can be learned and what can be reapplied? Because you're right, Ted, there's a lot of overlap. We have infinite power and we can apply it more than what we think, in my opinion. So I have a question for the group. Who has pitched a client or a piece of work and thought, or maybe you thought about pitching, but you didn't because you had this thought, why would they hire me? Like, of all the coaches out there, there's so many experts or people with more this or more this. Why would they hire me? And now you're either not doing it or you're doing it scared. Does anybody have that experience? I have it. I'm getting slow nod from Sophie. You're like, yes, I'm reading your mind. No, I think it's extremely common. I have had it, and I have it recurring, actually, because the more I try doing new things in the business, I get this feeling, this little bit of imposter, this little bit of, well, I'm not the world's foremost expert in coaching 3 co-founders, so why would they pick me? I just pitched a nonprofit organization to coach 8 of their leaders in a hybrid one-on-one and group. I've never worked at a nonprofit, and I've never coached a team in a nonprofit before. There's coaching organizations that exclusively do that. And my mind has this trick of, why me? Why should they hire me? And I realize every time it happens, and now I see it. So it's like Carrie kind of noticing that thought. Noticing is more than half the battle. I notice that it doesn't just prevent me from selling courageously or sometimes selling at all, but it really holds me back from making the impact that I know that I can make out in the world and with people who I really want to serve. And so my new belief that sometimes this old one creeps in and I have to proactively remind it to go in the corner, because here comes my new, more powerful belief. I don't have to be the singular best person on the planet to do this work. I just need to believe in the power of my coaching to make an impact and meet the client's needs. If I can believe deeply in the power of my coaching and the ability for it to meet the client's needs, I can pitch and serve fearlessly. I'm good. What's resonating here for you?
That it comes down to the belief in ourselves first.
Why can't that be an advantage that you're not a co-founder or not in that business, or can bring a totally unbiased view of the situation? I know I was talking to a client the other day and I was like, you know, he's a physician and he's running his department and he doesn't know how to run his department and all this stuff. And of course, you know, he's talking about all kinds of stuff. You know, but it doesn't matter. He's like, I actually prefer not having somebody, because every time he talks to somebody that's in that world, he gets that worldview of it. And so I give him a totally different perspective. So why can't what you think is not your advantage, your advantage?
Love that. I love that. Thank you for that prompt. And I want to offer that up to the group, right? Where can you look at your lens and say, how is this lens that I'm looking at as a negative actually a positive? And maybe there's some gold in there for you in your filters. If you can't fix it, feature it. I haven't heard that. I like that. Thank you. Okay. How many of you would consider yourselves independent? If you were collecting a list of attributes about yourself, how many would say independent? Yeah, okay, most of the group. I was that, I am that. I have this belief that I've got this. Does not sound like a good belief. Some of these beliefs, like, they're sneaky. I'm sharing the sneaky ones because there's some that are, you know, that they're not serving you, but there's some that are sneaky. This one, I've got this. This one took me a while to get to. I'd say this is like 2.0 lens shifting. What I realized is I have a strong connection to the part of my identity that is being a go-to person for other people. People come to me for help. People come to me with their problems, not just my clients, people in my life, my friends, my family. How many people in this virtual room are the go-to person for people in their life? Yeah, right. It could be great. I'm like hearing the Independent Woman song by Destiny's Child like playing in the background. This was a multimedia presentation. That's what would be playing. But what I chose to make that mean was that I don't need help. I don't need help. I've got this. And not only do I not need help, but because I'm the person that people come to, I can't also be the person that asks for. So I was signing myself up to be in it alone. And by in it, I mean a lot of things: business, finding a partner, moving apartments, like taking on life challenges. I didn't feel open to asking for help. And now I have a new belief that is, I value my independence and I'm proud of it. And I know I will get to my ideal life sooner, faster, and with more ease and with more fun if I have a supportive community around me. So I can get to pretty much any goal on my own, I believe, truly. But the ease, the fun, the speed comes from the community. And that means that I had to really own up to, like, sometimes I don't got this, you guys. Sometimes I don't. I hate to admit it, but sometimes I don't. And that was the lens that Gretchen helped me to see and shift, that has had impact in my business in a lot of ways. So I wonder, for you who nodded your heads for being a go-to person or being independent, what are you hearing about what you might allow yourself to shift in that area, in that definition? Is anything registering for you, Sophie? And then Don, no pressure if not.
It's funny, I was just about to say I have to head out a little early. I could say one thing before I leave. It's interesting around what you're saying about support. I personally don't struggle with that, but I see my clients struggle with that. And I ask them that when we work together, that part of the practice of the coaching partnership is them asking for help, even when they don't know how to articulate it. If they could just say, I'm stuck, we celebrate that.
Nice.
I don't know if that's relevant, but that's my experience.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I found out about you through Gretchen, so I just decided to pop in.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Don, what did you want to add?
Yeah, the reason I joined tonight, because I had that self-reflection of I've been trying to do it on my own and without, so I just finished my certification in August. So I noticed going through the class and having the peer coaches and the clients, I had that support and didn't realize it as much until after. Like, I walked away from everybody else and nothing was happening. So I'm like, I need to join tonight. I need to make something else different happen. So that resonated. I can't do it by myself, even though the independence is there. Recognize when the help is there, you have that community. So thanks again for doing this tonight, and totally the reason why I joined tonight.
Awesome. Well, you are amidst good company in Gretchen's community. So thank you for being here. Okay. I shared a bunch. I didn't get to 10, but I want to save some time for you all to take a few minutes and think about, what is your key takeaway from this session today? What might you do differently? That could be an action or could be a simple shift in a belief in an area of your life. I'd love for everyone to put something in the chat, and maybe for one or two of you who are feeling particularly bold, to share either a key takeaway or something that you are going to do or believe differently as a result of this conversation today. Yeah, Sherry shared in the chat, I believe I have to do it all. I'm going to ask for help. Amazing, simple, and very profound. Carrie C.
I'll share mine. One of my beliefs is it's safer to stay quiet. So I'm like, well, speaking up is going right against that belief. So that's the first one.
Yes.
Under client creation, I said, I'm not sure where to find clients. And my new belief is I know precisely how to connect with and enroll my ideal clients.
Ooh, I love it. That's powerful. I see a couple of good ones coming in the chat. Thank you, Carrie and Ted. Phil, thank you. Does one more person want to share? Chrissy, Tracy, we haven't heard from you yet today. Anything you'd like to share? I love what Phil just put in the chat. The problem isn't the problem. It's how I'm looking at the problem. That's the problem. I love that. Okay, I appreciate, oh, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, since you've been saying lenses all night and what Phil just said, take off the glasses that aren't working for you and put on the ones that are. That was my takeaway. What's working well in one area, why don't you take those glasses, put them on and look at the other areas? So it all came together for me. Thank you.
Yes, amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Don. And thanks, Phil, for that prompt. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for being engaged. I really appreciate it. Judy, thanks for putting your thoughts in the chat. If I can help any of you, feel free to DM me in the group. I didn't get to share all 10, but hopefully the ones that I shared were helpful. And I'm going to turn it to Christy to wrap up.
Thank you so much, Marissa. So we will have another First Wednesdays, every first Wednesday or second Wednesday on some months. But Gretchen is having an upcoming mini series. So I dropped the link in the chat if you want to check it out and sign up for it. It's for coaches and everything is going to help build your business. So hopefully we see you there and we see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, y'all. Night.
Good night.